Hello my friends, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. This is Jennifer. As you probably know by now, I went on a retreat with some of my best friends in the world, and that video was up last week. We didn't do any show and tell. It was just basically to show you guys that we were all together. Most of those people were Talk to Me Tuesdayers with the hope of Dominique joining us soon, and she says she will, so hopefully we will, as she mentioned, see Blocktopus very soon. I have a lot of show and tell for you today, so we're just gonna get started. The first thing I did was to bind the quilts that I had previously quilted, and those are on the wall today because it's I'm actually recording this a bit ahead of time because I have Linus on Saturday and I want to make sure and get these shown. It is really nasty outside, so we're doing an inside video even for the finished quilts. This is the Disappearing 9 patch with sashing that I made some time ago. I quilted it on my mid-arm, and then this is the first thing that I bound. I bound this quilt and I bound the other Disappearing 9 patch, which I'm going to show you now. The next project I worked on was binding for this Disappearing 9 patch, and I had originally intended to complete this pattern with the cornerstones, and then I just decided to call it done. It's a good size, it's a nice middle-sized quilt. I got it quilted and I got it bound, and this one, as per usual, will go to Linus on Saturday. As I like to do at retreats, I dragged all my orphan blocks that have been donated by so many wonderful people, including some that were given to me by Jules during the weekend, and I started sorting through them and immediately working on orphan block quilts. I think this is the first one I did. I'm not entirely sure. I pulled out a bunch of blocks that were between 6.5 and like 7-8 inches, and I squared them all up to 6.5 inches. And then I took some of that 2.5 inch strip pre-cut stuff that I made that I showed you guys a couple weeks ago in the box that I organized, and I had a bunch of different gray strips, and I cut those up to go into sashing and made this sweet little quilt top here. And all of the orphan block quilt tops, all of them will go to Linus. This quilt top is a complete mishmash of different styles, different colors. I pulled a bunch that were just the same size and sewed them together. This is a Fandom quilt block from Fandom & Stitches, and then there are some machine embroidered ones that people sent me, and just a variety of different random things that I put all together, and they will make a really fun quilt for a kid once I get it all quilted and ready for Linus. This is another mishmash, just bigger blocks this time. I actually made this one first, and then the one I just showed you I made second because it was the leftovers from the set that I had collected for this. And these are just higgledy-piggledy fun orphan blocks that I threw together, and again, we'll quilt for Linus. This one is a variety of just red, white, and blue that were donated by different people. These guys up here I'm pretty sure came from Vicky. If I remember correctly, she made some log cabin blocks for our swap last year, our Talk to Me Tuesday swap last year, and then she decided not to use those, so she sent them to me for Linus, and they've been sitting in my orphan blocks. And then I had some others, and I just basically just kept piecing until it was big enough to be a quilt top. This quilt top is a Cat in the Hat themed one that I had a lot of fun putting together. It was actually a panel. It was a kind of long skinny panel that had different rectangles in it, and I pulled red and white stripe and black and white polka dots out of my 2.5 inch strips and cut all of the panels apart. I ended up with one extra because it had 10 rectangles and I only needed 9. So I actually made an orphan block that has the border around it that'll go on another quilt at some point, but this is one of my favorites, and when I showed all my stuff to my husband, it was also his favorite. This was a bag of blocks that I just had sort of put sizes and similar colors all together, and I'm almost positive that the majority of these came from our own Susan. I'm almost sure that, like the 4 patches, and I think even the pinwheels came from Susan, so I love this one. It's just a sweet little baby-sized quilt top. Speaking of Susan, I'm pretty sure she made the center of this quilt top and sent it to Jules, who very sneakily threw it in my pile of orphan blocks, and then I put a border on it, and I will be actually sending this to her. I'm going to quilt it for her and send it to her because I have plenty, as you have seen, and one good turn deserves another, so I'm going to quilt this bad boy and send it right back to her so she can bind it and donate it to her project Linus. This little top isn't quite finished yet. It's the last of the quilt blocks, the orphan blocks that I pieced together. It needs some borders because right now it's only 2 blocks wide by 3 long, and I think it needs like another row of blocks or some good borders or something to make it grow a little bit. I am sure all of these came from Rainy, and there were more of these, but I put them in another orphan orphan block quilts, I think quite some time ago. That one might actually be hanging on my door right now. So this one is not quite done, but I did make a good start, and I will get it turned into a proper quilt top before long. I did not make this quilt top. This is Jules's lobster quilt top. She left it with me so I could quilt it for her. And it has this crazy lobster fabric in it, and we got a lot of mileage and a lot of laughs out of this lobster fabric. This is a disappearing 9-patch with sashing. Like I said, Jules's quilt, not my quilt, but I wanted to share it because it is too cute. The last quilt top I want to show you guys today is, as you can see, one of my very favorite themes to work on, and it was a Project of Doom quilt top. I always have Project of Doom blocks. I pulled out those, and then I had received orphan block that were these great jars, so I did a whole row of jars, and then I put a couple more jars on top. And there's a venomous tentacula down here, and I don't remember, I think it might have been Amber who said it's Neville's bookcase. And Harry is, you know, Harry shoved a couple things on Neville's bookcase because he wasn't thinking about it, because we have like Harry's glasses, and then we've got Tom Riddle's diary floating around over on the side. I did work on a few other things. I made something for a gift, and I worked on, with the help of Amber and Jules, I worked on a block for Phantom and Stitches, which I'm not going to show you guys right now. You'll get to see that. Let's see. You'll get to see that next week. That's pretty much it for me. I had a wonderful time. It's always very restorative to get to go to a retreat and hang out with my friends. Everyone who was invited, except for one person, was able to make it, and we missed her greatly, but we had a wonderful, wonderful time. We stayed in a house. It's actually the same retreat house that Amber, Jules, and I stayed in 5 years ago, but this time we had Dominique and Sarah too, and it was really fun, though we did decide that next time we need a slightly bigger house. Plenty of room for sleeping. Sewing was a little tight, and obviously priorities, we need more room for sewing. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I hope you have a very crafty week. Do not forget that tomorrow is the final official post of the Rankin Bass Holiday Quilt Along, and then next week will be our design invitational. Love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.